Hey guys, what's going on? It's Broken Nose Gaming here, and I will be making a much more timely video here as part 2 of the holiday offers and events have dropped. Now, I had some information that said the auction was actually going to start on the 16th. Turns out that it started today. It started the same day as the Mouse in the House event, where you can get the mouse tank, and the Snow Globe event actually got extended all the way to the end of December. Originally, I believe it was going to be stopping in about a week, but they have updated that and given you some extra time to finish the Snow Globe event on top of these other events. There's also some other fun things. There is a quest where you can get a background if you use consumables in 77 different battles, which shouldn't be that hard. And you have about, I want to say, 4 days left to finish that one. And then the auction also started today. Now, the auction is going to last for 7 days, so we'll be seeing a new auction next Friday. I'll be making videos every week about the tanks when it comes to that, but I'm going to go over some of the other events first, and then we can talk about the tanks that they have up for auction. So, Mouse in the House event does play very similarly to the HoloLive event, where you get 1,000 pieces. So in this case, it's vinyls, and you can go through the levels. Now, you get a couple different things. You get special camos, you get crates, you get attachments, you get boosters. So one of the exclusive camos that are for the Dead Mouse event is the Blink camo. I believe this is based on a wrap that Dead Mouse had on his car. And you also have other neat things, such as, I believe they're called mousetrap containers. The mousetrap container will have gold, the camos, there's a couple extra camos, boosters, and I will go over these really quick as well when it comes to the Dead Mouse heads. So there's Red Mouse, which we've all been accustomed to. That is Red Mouse. We have Blitz Mouse. Blitz Mouse is pretty cool. Blitz Mouse is the head that is designed after the one that they have in the video. And then you have Boom Mouse. Now, Boom Mouse reminds me a little bit of like a Burning Games mouse head, because it kind of has that same vibe. It's just not as orange. But those are the 3 mouse heads that you can get. You can get anything from 100 to 1,000 gold, and then the boosters and camos. Now, of course, along the way, you will also get what everyone is after, and that is the Tier 9 mouse tank. You get that at level 20. And we can take a look at the mouse tank really quick. Basically, it looks exactly how it looked in the video. It's got tail lights, it's got speakers, it's got headlights, it's got the little medium icon on one side, Dead Mouse icon on the other side. You got speakers, you have the Dead Mouse name on the side and one of the mouse heads on the other side. Now, let me see if I can get it to pop its ears up. There we go. So this is what it looks like. It has a couple speakers and then a couple little graphics on the top. They're all cosmetic. I don't think it actually does anything, so it's not armor or something like that. It just pops up in the beginning of the match and eventually goes back to normal like this. The mouse tank is pretty cool because it has a couple different interesting features. The big feature is tracer shells. So anytime you hit a tank, it will be visible to your team for 20 seconds instead of 10. It also has 2 different main gun options. Now, the main gun that I would probably recommend is the standard one, which is a single shot. It does pretty good damage. It has a pretty good reload. Stats all around are pretty good. Right now, we're playing Burning Games. Today is the last day of Burning Games. The second gun that it has might be better for Burning Games because of your reduced reload, especially on your second life. The second gun that it has is actually an Annihilator style gun, where it fires 3 shots in 1 click, and its reload time isn't too bad. It's about 11 seconds for that. It does have slightly worse dispersion. It has slightly worse aim time. It has slightly better pen. The damage obviously is going to be way worse, but if you connect all 3 shots, the damage is pretty good. So it's cool that this tank has 2 different gun types. Like I said, for the Burning Games event that we're doing right now, I would probably use the Annihilator style gun. When we go into any other game mode, I would probably use the single shot for more reliable, consistent damage. So that is the Mouse in the House event. The Mouse in the House event is going to go for about 2 weeks. There's 60 levels, among other things other than the mouse tank, crates, collectibles, boosters, camos, attachments, and you also get a profile background. So that's pretty cool. Price-wise, I'm not super excited about the price. There are 2 options. You can get the standard pass, which will give you just the access to things like the mouse tank, and you will also get the missions that will give you extra level pieces, the vinyls. That's $11.99. That's not a bad price. The VIP one, which will give you extra levels, will also give you more boosters that will give you 1,000 vinyls every match, is a little bit more. I was actually a little surprised at how much more it was compared to some of the other events. I was ready and willing to drop like $20 on the VIP pass, no problem. That's what like the Dune event was, that's what the HoloLive event was. I was like, all right, cool, this is going to be easy $20, we're going to have fun. No, it's $41.99. That's more than I was expecting by at least double. I'm going to guess it's because we have the Dead Mouse name behind it. Be aware that it's $42. That's actually really hard to recommend unless you have money saved up for this event laying around. Otherwise, I mean, if you're just interested in the tank, you can get away with getting just the regular $11.99 pass. You'll do a couple days of grinding, and then you'll eventually have the mouse tank, which is what I think everyone really wants. You can also, if you really want to, buy the mouse tank by itself. Now, in my opinion, I think this is probably the worst idea if you're trying to get this tank and you're only interested in this tank, because it's $70. So that's even more than the VIP pass, which will get you the mouse tank instantly with the $42 and 20 levels. And it's way more than even just the standard pass, which with some grinding will also get you the mouse tank. I'm a little baffled by this price point for this tank. $70 for something that you can get for much less just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe this is going to be aimed at the folks who don't have the time to grind the other items, but you can still just buy the other VIP pass, which is still at least almost $30 less than this. So I don't understand this one. You do get one little extra bit, and that is the amplifier garage gear, where it is a floating red mouse head with some like cool graphics behind it. Don't think that's worth $70 in the slightest. So I'm a little taken back. I'm a little confused by like buying the mouse tank by itself. And in all reality, that's actually the first real kind of like a negative thing I have to say about this event is I feel like they kind of knew what they had and just decided to run the price up a little bit more than I think any of us were expecting for that VIP pass. But that is our Mouse in the House event. So we've gone over the Mouse in the House event. So that leaves us with just one more event to speak about right now, and that is the auction. So the auction, like I said, will start with the prices being a little high, and then they will go down day after day. There's a limited number of tanks available, and all you got to do is click on this link, and it'll take you to the website where you can bid. I have all of the tanks that they have on this week's auction down below, and we will go through them really quick from tier 10 to tier 7, because those are all the tanks that we have. Currently, we have 8 tanks available. Starting at tier 10, we have the T22 Medium. So the T22 Medium is regarded as probably one of the better tier 10 mediums that you can get in the collector / premium range. Its hull is a little deceiving. It does look flat, but it's actually kind of curved or sloped like the ST62 version 2 is. If you look here, you can see this is actually all spaced armor, and it's not quite sloped, but it's angled. So it's a very triangular hull. You can see the point down below. So here and here on the left and right hand side underneath it, that won't do anything. And then you have spaced armor along the sides. So if you catch this at the wrong angle, or if you just misplace your shot, it might bounce or just go through the spaced armor on the sides. It's a pretty mobile tank. It's a pretty good tank. A lot of people really do like the T22. I'm not going to go a whole lot into its stats or anything like that, like I did for the Black Friday event. But the T22 Medium is definitely one of the tanks I would probably recommend keeping an eye on if you don't have this tank. Next up is the Chieftain Mark 6, which is a tier 10 heavy. This tank's been around for a while, I think. It's not a bad tank, but they did do some rebalancing to this tank recently. So the big thing that changed was its ammo loadout. It originally had, I believe, like APCR, but now it has HESH, which is cool because HESH does more damage. The problem is that the HESH penetration is not that great. The HESH penetration is anywhere between 190 to 210 millimeters. At tier 10, that's not great. You kind of have to definitely be on someone's side or rear to make sure that penetrates. And I believe they did some other tweaks to the tank as well that just makes the handling a little wonky. It did get some extra provisions as well. It got gear oil, which is cool for mobility. So I am a little hesitant to recommend the Chieftain, mainly because I have not played it since these updates. So kind of take that as you will. I will say this camo, though, is pretty cool. This is the Custodian camo for the Chieftain Mark 6. Yeah, when it comes to auctioning, I'm on the fence about this one. I would probably suggest the T22 before we did the Chieftain Mark 6. In Tier 9, there are a couple tanks. The first one is the Kampfpanzer 70, which was also in the Black Friday event. And I also went in depth on its stats and what I thought of this tank as well. I'll keep it brief here, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Kampfpanzer 70. It's got a very large gun. It's got a very long reload. When it hits, it's great. When it doesn't hit, you're stuck reloading for a while. It's not my favorite thing. If you're really interested in the tank and you didn't get it during Black Friday, keep an eye on it. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Kampfpanzer 70. The other tier 9 that we have is the K91. Now, this tank's pretty nice. This tank was around before the Object 752. The K91 is also an autoloader, but is a 3-shell autoloader. Its turret is really sloped and very strangely shaped, so you do get a few bounces off of that. You don't have giant hatches sitting on the top. It's fairly mobile. Overall, I like the K91. Between the two, the Kampfpanzer or the K91, if you're looking at either one of these in the auction, I would definitely recommend the K91. Overall, I just think it's more versatile and just is more fun to play compared to the Kampfpanzer 70. So up next in the tier 8s for auction, the first one that we'll talk about is the Astron Rex. Now, I've brought this tank up once already, but as you can see, the Astron Rex does look very similar to the ST62 version 2, where it's got a very small hull, but a very large turret. Now, the Astron Rex is an autoloader. It has a 105mm main gun, has a 3-shot autoloader. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of about the Astron Rex is the gun feels slow, or it feels clunky to use. I believe that probably boils down to the intra-clip reload on this particular tank, especially for a medium. The intra-clip reload on the Astron Rex is 3.5 seconds. Just everything about this tank feels slow. The mobility doesn't feel great. The gun handling, the gun intra-clip reload. I got this tank out of a massive crate, which is why I also got the legendary camo. But I'm not a huge fan of this tank. I personally don't like it, and I would probably not really be willing to recommend this tank in the auction. Unless you're a big fan of autoloaders, I guess, but there are better autoloaders out there, especially at tier 8, than the Astron Rex. Next up is the HWK-30. The HWK-30 is pretty cool. If you like the RU-251 in the German tech tree, this is basically just kind of a premium version of the RU-251. It is very lightly armored, it is very quick, it uses the same gun as the RU-251, and the neat thing about both of those tanks is their HE is actually not a standard HE round. The penetration is actually not too bad for tier 8. Like, for an HE shell, like, it's not quite HESH. They call it, I believe, HEP. You get anywhere between 97 to 107 millimeters of pen, and you do up to 338 alpha. That's not bad. The RU-251, the HWK-30, and I believe the M41 Black Dog all share this similar ammunition piece. And when I was introduced to it in that Black Dog tank, it was really cool, and I've always kind of liked having that as an HE option. Now, the difference between the M41 Black Dog, the RU-251, and the HWK-30 is the latter of the two are much smaller, but they also don't have a lot of armor, so you are going to get HE thrown at you. But if you like the RU-251, then I could definitely recommend the HWK-30 to you as well. And second to last on our list is the venerable Object 252U. I would definitely say this particular tank was probably one of those tanks that they would recommend to players who are new and need to learn the game, because the 252U is pretty hard to mess up in. The side armor is really good, and you will see a lot of bounces. The front of the tank is also fairly well armored. The only downside is it has a very massive lower plate, which if people can hit, you will definitely get pinned. The turret is fairly strong. It has a very good main gun. It's a pretty good tank. The only downside is it's been around for a while, so most everyone probably already has the 252U, but it's still a good tank. If you don't have the 252U, you're new to the game, this is one tank that I would probably look at getting if you're at that skill level to play at tier 8. This is probably the tank for you. And finally, the last tank on our auction list this week is the Tier 7 British Heavy, the FV201A45. What can I say about this tank? Or what can I say positive about this tank? Because personally, I'm not a fan of it. It reminds me of the Black Prince. I'm not a fan of the Black Prince, and I'll break it down really quick. They both share the same main gun, which is a 17-pounder, which does a whole 160 alpha. That would be okay if the tank maybe was more mobile, but British Heavies are not. The Black Prince was basically kind of like a supersized Churchill. The FV201, while it doesn't look quite like a Churchill, it actually has like sloped or angled armor. It's still slow. It does have a quick reload. The pen is okay because it's a 17-pounder, but the alpha, just 160 at tier 7 isn't super fun, especially for a heavy. This is one that I would just avoid entirely. If there's nothing that you see this week, don't feel like you need to spend your gold, because we still have other auctions coming up. As I said, this will be changing every Friday for the next few weeks. So these are your auction tanks for this week. Like I said, the ones that I would look at: T22 medium, K91, HWK30 if you're a light tank player, or the 252U if you don't have it and you're a fairly new player, or someone who just wants to kind of like look into the higher tiers and how to play them. Those would be the tanks that I'd recommend looking at. So there you have it. That is part 2 of the Blitz holiday event. So some good news with the Snow Globe extension. Some not so great news with the Mouse in the House pricing for the passes, and we got to take a look at some of the tanks in that first week auction. I will, like I said, continue to make some holiday event videos as we A, either get more information, or B, you should be seeing one every week for when the auction tanks change. But I wanted to get this out in a more timely manner versus the holiday event part 1 video that I did. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned some things if you're new to the game and you are trying to navigate your way through this particular part of the year. And until I see you guys in the next video, take it easy. Bye-bye.